Emanating from www.michaelnimmons.com. It's the Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.
This is Michael Eric Dyson.
This is Rochelle Riley, straight out of Detroit.
This is Dr. Victoria Dooley at Dr. Dooley MD.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, comedian Jay Stevens. This is Frederick D. Haynes III.
I am Justin Coates, an author and anti-bullying activist.
I am Pam Perry.
Hey, everybody. This is Rochelle V. Mann, CEO of Man-Made Productions.
This is Bree Diane, international evangelist.
Hey, this is Candace Pretty String Smith.
And what's up? This is Ty Scott King.
Hey, what's cracking Planet Earth? It's your boy Griff, comedian, author, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, philanthropist, but a Jesus Christ lover. You understand me? And you're listening to Thinking Out Loud Radio with my homeboy Michael Nimmons. Check him out right here. Go ahead, Mike. Give him that good.
I want you to give a warm Thinking Out Loud radio show welcome to Emmy Award-winning WXYZ Channel 7 anchor woman and new friend of the show, Miss Carolyn Clifford.
Well, thank you, Michael, and what a nice introduction. So happy to be here.
You know what I've got to do. I got to check out my man, Michael Nimmons, who is handling his business as he drops that knowledge. I like that because Frederick Douglass, for whom my name says that knowledge unfits us for slavery. Truth sets us free. If you want to be free, you want to be like Mike. Check out the best radio show online.
You're locked in right now to who are listening.
You're tuned into the...
And without thinking about it, guess what? I'm thinking out loud right here on the Thinking Out Loud radio show.
And if you want to stay in the know, you better be listening to Thinking Out Loud radio show.
You're listening to the Thinking Out Loud radio show.
Check out Thinking Out Loud.
Thinking Out Loud radio show.
Thinking Out Loud radio show. Don't you dare touch that dial.
The Thinking Out Loud radio show with Michael Nimmons.
Featuring author, motivational speaker, and minister, Michael Nimmons.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer.
I titled it The Promised Land because even though we may not get there in our lifetimes, even if we experience hardships and disappointments along the way, that I at least still have faith we can create a more perfect union. Not a perfect union, but a more perfect union.
A Promised Land Presidential Memoir Book Club Series. Brought to you by the Thinking Out Loud radio show.
Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show for 2021. That's right. And I'm your host, author, motivational speaker, and minister, Michael Nimmons. You're tuned in to the show that's giving voice to issues that matter to you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy New Year to everybody that's tuned in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show. We're so very excited to be bringing you a brand new show. That's right. The first episode of 2021. So very very excited. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season. It seemed to have gone by so very fast. We had our last show of 2020 on Christmas, and shouts out to artist Kim Pratt for being with us for our last show for 2020. And guys, we are expecting some great things in 2021. I know you are as well, and we're just going to hit the ground running and see what happens. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's show. We're going to be talking about former President Obama's newest book, A Promised Land, for the next 2 episodes. This is a powerful book, a very insightful book, a behind the scenes look at the life and the legacy of President Barack Obama. We're going to be talking about this book, his legacy. We're also going to be talking about what happened at the Capitol just a few days ago. Guys, this was surreal. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And just imagine, we've had these discussions already, I'm sure, but imagine if the complexion was different and it wasn't white supremacists that were converging on the Capitol, but it was black people, engaged in a riotous, I don't even call it protest, because it wasn't even a protest. This was a riot. This was an insurrection, a riotous insurrection. That's what we'll call it. Thugs, domestic terrorists that converged on the Capitol back on Wednesday, January 6th. And, what would have happened had that went another way? And we all know, what happened back in June of last year in Washington during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protest, of that young man dying because of the police kneeling on his neck, and 400 arrests. I mean, Washington was completely shut down. There were military police everywhere for a peaceful protest that took place in Washington. There was a purpose behind this protest, but what happened just a few days ago was sheer mayhem. It was a riotous insurrection that converged on our nation's capital, the seat of our democracy, someone put it. And there's no other way to characterize it. And I'm just glad that Trump is on his way out. He's going to be gone in just a few days. I'm sure there are those of you who believe he should be impeached, and they're trying to threaten to invoke the 25th Amendment. There's so much bureaucracy behind those two options right now that 10 days does not give us enough time to levy those kinds of punishments against this man. I just think that we would probably be better served just making sure that he cannot do any more damage to this office as much as he's already done, and making sure that the American people are safe these next 10 days, transitioning into a new administration on January 20th. And basically that's, I think, what we should be focused on. But again, we all know the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats have already issued articles of impeachment that they're going to be voting on tomorrow. And we just have to let things play out and see what happens. But this is where we are. I'm just excited again that we have a new administration coming in, President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, and looking forward to what they're going to do in the office. Again, they are not the end-all, be-all of anything. I just think they're going to do a much better job than the previous administration. Can I get a witness? Is anybody out there to say amen? I know you're saying amen. Yes. But that's what's on the top of my mind for the show on today. But again, we're going to be talking about A Promised Land. I'm excited about this book. It's one book that I've been waiting to read. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. And we're going to be talking about this book, among other things, for the next 2 weeks. Everything Obama related. He is probably one of the most transformative presidents in our nation's history, not just being the first black president, but what he was able to accomplish as president of the United States with health care, the killing of Osama bin Laden, the bailing out of the auto industry, just to name a few. But he has a tremendous record of accomplishments that we plan to share over these next 2 weeks to talk about his life, talk about his legacy, and much more. And we have really been thinking about lately on how we can interact with and engage you, the listeners of the Thinking Out Loud radio show, in a much better way. Our show is pre-recorded and is loaded to the podcasting host network or platform, and then it's distributed out to the podcasting networks that give you the ability to listen to the show, but it doesn't really give you an opportunity to interact and engage with us. And so, in thinking about it, we were talking to a good friend of ours who gave us a great idea that we plan to add to the repertoire of the Thinking Out Loud radio show. And so in just another week or so, in fact, Tuesday, January the 19th, mark your calendars, we're going to be having Thinking Out Loud radio after show. That's right, guys. After the podcast concludes at 9:30, we're going live on Instagram, where we'll be talking to you, and you'll be able to talk to us about what we discussed on the podcast. I'm excited, guys. So we're going to be talking about President Obama's book. We're going to be talking about his legacy. We're going to be talking about the new administration, the Biden administration, the upcoming inauguration. So, guys, we are very, very excited to be bringing to you the Thinking Out Loud radio after show, January the 19th, live on Instagram at 9:30. So look forward to that. We'll be posting information on our Facebook page. We'll be posting it on Twitter and Instagram to remind you about this event that's coming up. And we're going to be on every week after that. So our podcast will air at 8 o'clock, and then we'll be on live on Instagram at 9:30 to chop it up with you, our listeners. So I'm looking forward to that for this brand new year, 2021, and hopefully you will be as well. This is a great way for us to connect with each other. You can ask us questions, we can ask you questions, we can get your feedback and more. And I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to connecting with you, and looking forward to expanding our audience for the Thinking Out Loud radio show in 2021. Just want to put this out there as well. If you are listening on tonight and you want to be a guest on the Thinking Out Loud radio show, shoot us an email at contact@michaelnimmons.com. We would love to hear from you. We're always looking for guests to be on the show, and we're also looking for partners, advertising partners for our show as well. Again, shoot us an email at contact@michaelnimmons.com. Also, stop by our website, michaelnimmons.com. We've got a lot of great things in store. We're going to be doing some new things this year on our website as well. We've got some swag there that's available. Thinking Out Loud radio show swag, face masks. We got hoodies for the winter. We got t-shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve, you name it. We got fitted hats. We got caps, rather, not fitted. We getting there. We gonna get there. But we got the snapback hats on online as well. Just go to michaelnimmons.com. got a lot of great things in store for you. We're going to be doing more tweeting, and we're going to be on Instagram more, Facebook more throughout this entire year 2021. So we'll be looking forward to connecting with you, the listeners of the Thinking Out Loud radio show, in new and creative ways. And we hope that you'll connect with us as well. So guys, we are so again very excited to be bringing to you this series we're calling Promised Land, the Presidential Memoir Book Club series. So look forward to that today and next week as well. And again, we're going live on Instagram next Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Add us at TOL Radio Host MSN on Twitter and Instagram, and that way you'll be able to be a part of the discussion and be a part of what we have going on the show. Follow us again on Twitter and Instagram. And guys, we're going to be doing some new things on Facebook. Unfortunately, our account was hacked over the holidays, so we don't have the Thinking Out Loud Facebook fan page anymore. We're doing some new things. We're trying to figure out and mitigate what has happened to us, unfortunately. But we're going to, I think this is a time for us to hit the reset button with our social media anyway. So we'll keep you posted on what direction we'll be going in on Facebook, but right now Twitter and Instagram are still up, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at TOL Radio Host MSN. TOL Radio Host MSN. Again, subscribe to the podcast. It's available on all of major podcasting networks, including michaelnimmons.com and the Detroit Praise Network. So guys, we're getting ready to take our first break of the night, but when we come back, we're jumping right into our discussion of A Promised Land, the Presidential Memoir book series, right here on the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Don't you go anywhere. You're tuned in to one of the hottest radio shows online. It's the Thinking Out Loud radio show. We'll be right back.
You're tuned in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.
Hello, my name is Maya Nimmons, and I want you to listen to my dad, Michael Nimmons, on the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m., available everywhere you listen to your podcast, and now available on the Detroit Praise Network website.
You better listen to that little girl, the Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.
Stephanie D. Sanders, award-winning singer, songwriter, author, voiceover artist, and more. Heard on shows like the Tom Joyner Morning Show and the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Book Stephanie D. Sanders to voice over your podcast or radio intros or commercials. Do yourself a favor and visit StephanieDSanders.com and upgrade your podcast or radio show by booking Stephanie D. Sanders. You'll definitely be glad that you did. Good friend of ours, iconic, legendary radio host right here in Detroit, John Mason. Welcome to the Thinking Out Loud radio show.
Thank you, Pastor Michael, man. Head out of a cloud and always listen to Thinking It Out Loud. It'll change your life. It'll do it. And every time you watch and listen, it'll change your life every day.
Tune in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show every Tuesday at 8 p.m. with radio host Michael Nimmons. Available everywhere you listen to your podcast. And now available for download on the Detroit Praise Network app.
Who told you that you were naked? Who told you that you were insufficient? Who told you that you were a loser? Who told you that you were a failure? Who told you that you were deficient? Who told you that you were nothing? Who told you that you were worthless? Who told you that you had no value? Who told you that you you to believe.
Who Told You That You Were Naked? It's a dynamic, empowering, and inspiring book about identity that is a definite must-have. Pastor Nimmons talks about an identity crisis that dates as far back as the Garden of Eden. You don't want to miss these powerful insights into not just the problem of this identity crisis, but the discovery of the spiritual solution. Get your copy now, available on Amazon for just $14.95 or by visiting michaelnimmons.com.
Like a victim when you are already victorious.
If you believe in social justice, if you believe that Black Lives Matter, if you believe that voting will bring about a change in November, if you believe that Jesus Christ is King, then you need to be listening to the Thinking Out Loud radio show. I'm radio host Michael Nimmons, and if all of your answers are yes, then you need to join me Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Available everywhere you listen to your podcast, including michaelnimmons.com.
The Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.
You're tuned in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Keep it locked, keep it locked, keep it locked.
Could lead a Marty March. And that's what the young people here today, and listening all across the country, must take away from this day. You are America. Unconstrained by habit and convention. Unencumbered by what is, because you're ready to seize what ought to be. For everywhere in this country, there are first steps to be taken. There's new ground to cover. There are more bridges to be crossed. And it is you, the young and fearless at heart, the most diverse and educated generation in our history, who the nation is waiting to follow. Because Selma shows us that America's not the project of any one person. Because the single most powerful word in our democracy is the word we. We the people. We shall overcome. Yes, we can. That word is owned by no one. It belongs to everyone. Oh, what a glorious task we are given to continually try to improve this great nation of ours. 50 years from Bloody Sunday. Our march is not yet finished, but we're getting closer. 239 years after this nation's founding, our union is not yet perfect, but we are getting closer. Our job's easier because somebody already got us through that first mile. Somebody already got us over that bridge. When it feels the road's too hard, when the torch we've been passed feels too heavy, we will remember these early travelers and draw strength from their example and hold firmly to the words of the prophet Isaiah. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on the wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. We honor those who walked so we could run. We must run so our children soar, and we will not grow weary, for we believe in the power of an awesome God, and we believe in this country's sacred promise. May He bless those warriors of justice no longer with us, and bless the United States of America. Thank you, everybody.
We are back on A Promised Land Presidential Memoirs book series edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Wow, that is a mouthful. So happy that you guys are tuned in to tonight's show. And as we said before the break, we're going to be talking about A Promised Land Presidential Memoir, Volume 1, that former President Barack Obama recently released, and I'm sure you are just as excited as I am to talk about the book. It's going to be a loose discussion of the book. We're going to be talking about the book, Obama's legacy, and much, much more in the next two shows. So it's going to be a great discussion, a great conversation. I know we've talked about President Obama in past shows, but I have to say that I've really been waiting for this book to come out, to read it, and to also discuss it during our podcast, because he is, in my view, one of the most transformative presidents in our U.S. history. And when you read the book, you really discover just how intelligent, just how charismatic and diplomatic this man was, and how much he brought to the table as the first black president of these United States. And so in this segment, we're going to be talking about some of our first impressions of President Obama's book, A Promised Land. Again, it's going to be a loose discussion of the book, and it is definitely a very interesting book to read. It's broken up into 7 parts. Part 1 is called The Bet. Part 2 is called Yes We Can. Part 3 is called The Renegade. Part 4 is The Good Fight. Part 5, The World as It Is. Part 6, In the Barrel. And Part 7, On the High Wire. And we're about 2/3 of the way through this book. And again, a very, very insightful book, behind the scenes look at the life of President Barack Obama. And then again, this first segment, we're going to be giving you some of our first impressions of our read of A Promised Land. You know, Barack wasn't the prototypical multi-generational wealthy aristocrat groomed for the White House. I think that was one of the things he wanted to one of the messages he wanted to convey, especially to the young people that read the book, that he wasn't the best and brightest student in the class, even as a teenager. He didn't get serious about his education until almost the time he got to college, or when he was in college. The part about, being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Most of the 43 U.S. presidents all came from wealthy families. They were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Wealth was what they were accustomed to. And the presidency was an office that many of them were, and their family were aspiring to. Leadership. Power. They looked at that office as a lateral move in some cases. But President Obama, former President Obama, did not have that at all in his purview as a child and as an adolescent. He, like many black young people, saw that office as fairly exclusive. It was out of reach. And as you read the book, you discover that is the perception of not just, some black people, but most black people. He was a marginal average student that his mother had to constantly admonish and encourage to study and to read books. He didn't come, again, from a wealthy pedigree that bred successful intellectuals or businessmen, the Kennedys, the Rockefellers, just to name a few. But it came about through hard work, diligence, and determination. And that is the prevailing message that I believe Barack wanted to convey, especially to the young people that read this book. And by doing so, give them the inspiration and the motivation that if he did it, they can do it too. In fact, he talks about a time when he had the conversation with his wife, Michelle, about why he wanted to run for president of the United States. In fact, she asked him, why you, Barack? Why you, Barack? And he said that I might be able to spark a new era of politics or get a new generation to participate or bridge the division in the country better than other candidates could. But who knows? There's no guarantee we can pull it off. Here's one thing I do know for sure, though. I know that the day I raise my hand and take the oath to be the president of the United States, the world would start looking at America differently. I know the kids all around the country, black kids, Hispanic kids, kids who don't fit in, they'll see themselves differently too. Their horizons lifted, their possibilities expanded, and that alone, that would be worth it. And again, I truly believe that not only did he believe that, but that was the reason, one of the primary reasons why he decided to run for president of the United States and be the first black president of this country. That statement summarized what I believe Obama really felt about the opportunity not just to be president of the United States, but to be elected the first black president of the United States. And it was probably one of those rare occasions where he could be candid and honest about being the first black president and what that would mean, not just for him, but for people around the country and the world. You have to think about one thing about, his life and running for the presidency. At that particular time, his life was already, very public. He had been a successful U.S. Senator for 4 years, run a successful campaign as a Senator for Illinois and U.S. Senator for Illinois. And, he had kind of a rock star status. And as we talk about throughout this series, he writes in his book about how after his successful run as a U.S. Senator, he was almost edged on and influenced to run for president, even in his first year as a freshman senator from Illinois. There were, top Democrats in his own party that were asking him questions about, well, when are you going to run for president? He hadn't even gotten into his office really good yet as a U.S. Senator, and there were already talks and discussions about him possibly running for president of the United States. But one thing the book does share, he shares his insights on how he actually felt about the possibility of not just running for president of the United States, but also being the first black president of the United States, which is something that, in watching all of this play out in real time 8 years ago, you didn't see that. You weren't privy to that. And that's the thing that I liked about the book, is that he really shared what he felt he would bring to the table as the first black president of the United States. Another thing that I thought was interesting as I read part one, The Bet, it talked about his relationship with former First Lady Michelle Obama and how, they got along, and how, first of all, how they met. And of course, we all know that they were both attorneys at the time. He was interning at her law firm, and that's how they became acquainted with each other and eventually started a relationship and eventually got married. But what's interesting to me is after they got married that, Barack began to pursue a political career or career in politics, starting off as a community organizer and then moving from there to a state senator of Illinois, and then from U.S. State senator from Illinois to U.S. senator, and then ultimately to the presidency of these United States. But Michelle was not as supportive of his political career as it kind of looked like in the public's view, in the public's eye. And then again, that's another reason to read the book, because he shares very candidly, what challenges he faced, not just from those from without, but from those from within his own inner circle, including his own wife, Michelle Obama. And what I found interesting was that Michelle was his closest ally, but also I hate to put it this way, but his worst enemy, because she was the one who he had to constantly convince to pursue another level in his career, even though it was his idealism and optimism as a young law student interning at her law firm that attracted her to him in the first place. So my question is, so why, when he wanted to activate some of those dreams and goals that he talked about before they got married, it was such a hard sell when they were married? I always wondered why, when reading this, it seemed like Michelle, when he wanted to pursue some of the dreams and visions he had, they may have talked about prior to them getting married, and it was his idealism, it was his optimism that was some of the things that attracted her to him, that when he wanted to pursue those as her husband, that it was a hard sell for her, and even to the degree that when he first told her he wanted to run for president of the United States, he said, "This is it, Barack. This is it." And she went on to say, "One last time, but don't expect me to do any campaigning. In fact, you shouldn't even count on my vote." Let me say that again. Yeah, you heard it right. She said, "This is it, Barack. This is it. One last time, but don't expect me to do any campaigning. In fact, you shouldn't even count on my vote." Yes, she said this, guys, and he put it in. He put it in his book. He put it in his book, and I was when I first read that, I was just hollering, laughing at her candor and her frankness. This is it. One last time, and I'm not going to do any campaigning for you, and you shouldn't even count on me for my vote. This coming from his closest partner in life, his wife, his spouse, and she is telling him, this is it, and don't expect me to campaign for you, and you shouldn't even expect for my vote. Now, of course, some of that was probably said in anger, and in jest, because, we all know she did campaign for Barack Obama for president, and she did ultimately vote for him. We hope she did, but I believe that, when he approached her with the subject, it may have caught her off guard or whatever. But we know that she did campaign for him, and in fact, she was one of the beneficiaries of his vision, because I heard it said that when you become president, the first lady is your plus one. I mean, she's not elected, she's going along for the ride, so to speak, and so she gets to live in the White House, the West Wing, the private residence of the White House, and there's a number of accoutrements that go along with being the first family of the country. We're going to talk about the first black family in the next edition of this series, this book series. But she was definitely a beneficiary of his ambition and his vision to become the first black president of the United States. And, for her not to have seen that prior to him becoming the president, to me was a bit frustrating. I know if it was frustrating for me reading it or surprising for me reading it, then it had to be just as surprising and maybe even more so for Barack, and that was her husband. So these are just a few things that kind of stood out to me as I was reading A Promised Land, and again looking at their life from the outside, and many of us are looking at their life from the outside, looking in. They look like they were a very supportive couple. They look like they were a team, and it's only when you read the book and you find that they were challenged in their private life, and they were challenged in several different ways, much like we are, because they are human beings just like we are. But we read that, and I thought that was something that I wanted to share, because again, their life was not a Norman Rockwell painting like many of us thought it was. And again, we're going to talk about the first black family and what are the implications, what were the challenges that they faced, and how they met those challenges, because I think it was remarkable for not just America, but for black America to see those images in magazines and in the news and in the media on a regular basis, and how they can carry themselves and how they conducted themselves. We're going to get deeper into that discussion in the next edition of this A Promised Land, the presidential memoir book series. So look forward to that. Let me just say this, because I don't want to leave the discussion, here negatively with regards to Michelle's perception of Obama's run for the presidency. But she did come back and offer a mea culpa, offer an apology to Barack once he did, win the presidency. She came back and said, "I can't believe you pulled the whole thing off. The campaign, the book." I said to her in response, this is Barack, magic beans. Magic beans. So he was able to, I think he put that in there in jest to her, but also to show his readers and those of us who follow their life, their very public life, some insight into their private life as well. Again, to just show you that, they weren't, always on the same page, and most couples are not, and we understand that, but they just looked the part in public, and for them to be challenged, the way they were in private is just something that I believe is noteworthy. So, but those are some of my first impressions of, the book, A Promised Land. There's much more I could say about about the book, but I encourage you to go out and purchase it. It is definitely a great read. We're going to be talking more about the book throughout these 2 weeks that we're talking about the Obama legacy, A Promised Land. Go out and get it. It's going to certainly, I think, help you in better understanding, not just the life of the Obamas, but also what actually goes into being president of the United States. It's a lot to consider, and especially coming from one, I think, of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. So, guys, we're going to take our next break of the night. But when we come back, we're going to get into Barack's journey into politics and running the first successful black presidential campaign. Guys, you don't want to go anywhere. You're tuned in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thinking Out Loud radio show with Pastor Michael Nimmons. Don't you dare touch that dial.
Demyri Graphics.
In need of a logo design for your business? Then check out
Demyri Graphics.
Need flyers, business cards, t-shirts, or a website for your business? Then check out
Demyri Graphics.
The people at
Demyri Graphics
will get you right for your next business venture. They're professional, creative, courteous, and they get the job done right every time. Check out the team at
Demyri Graphics.
Give them a call today at 734-219-5266. Demyri Graphics, bringing your imagination to life.
Congratulations to Pastor Michael Nimmons for over 20,000 streams and downloads. Rate, review, and subscribe to the Thinking Out Loud radio show podcast. Available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, radio.com, and michaelnimmons.com. Tune in today.
The Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you. Thinking Out Loud swag is here. T-shirts, polos, hoodies, Letterman's jackets, and even face masks. All priced affordably and in a variety of colors and sizes. Just visit michaelnimmons.com to purchase your favorite Thinking Out Loud radio show swag. Get yours today and rep the show out loud. People have spoken. From Minneapolis, Minnesota to London, England, from New Zealand to New York City. Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe are the sentiment of people around the world. Dr. King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We must do everything we can to continue to march, protest, and rally for justice. Let us march on until victory is won. An important message from the Thinking Out Loud radio show.
You're listening to the Thinking Out Loud radio show with Pastor Michael Nimmons. Don't you dare touch that dial.
You're tuned in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Keep it locked, keep it locked, keep it locked.
That we have duties to ourselves, our nation, and the world. Duties that we do not grudgingly accept, but rather seize gladly. Firm in the knowledge that there is nothing so satisfying to the spirit, so defining of our character, and giving our all to a difficult task. This is the price and the promise of citizenship. This is the source of our confidence, the knowledge that God calls on us to shape an uncertain destiny. This is the meaning of our liberty and our creed, why men and women and children of every race and every faith can join in celebration across this magnificent mall. Why a man whose father less than 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant can now stand before you to take a most sacred oath. Let us mark this day with remembrance of who we are and how far we have traveled. In the year of America's birth, in the coldest of months, a small band of patriots huddled by dying campfires on the shores of an icy river. The capital was abandoned. The enemy was advancing. The snow was stained with blood. The moment when the outcome of our revolution was most in doubt, the father of our nation ordered these words be read to the people. Let it be told to the future world that in the depth of winter, when nothing but hope and virtue could survive, that the city and the country, alarmed at one common danger, came forth to meet it. America, in the face of our common dangers, in this winter of our hardship, let us remember these timeless words. With hope and virtue, let us brave once more the icy currents and endure what storms may come. Let it be said by our children's children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end, that we did not turn back nor did we falter. And with eyes fixed on the horizon and God's grace upon us, we carried forth that great gift of freedom and delivered it safely to future generations. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
We are back on A Promised Land Presidential Memoirs book series edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show. And as we said before the break, we're going to be continuing our discussion of former President Barack Obama's newest book, A Promised Land. This is a book that has been highly anticipated, not just by me, but I'm sure by many, many people. In fact, when it debuted just a few months ago, the first day it sold 900,000 copies. So you can again imagine, that it's already a number one book, a number one New York Times bestseller. And this is just volume 1 of his presidential memoirs. And so, and again, it's a dynamic book. I highly recommend that you go out and purchase it if you are at all interested in the life of and the legacy of former President Barack Obama. He takes us behind the scenes of his childhood, his teenage years, adolescent years, all the way up until him becoming the 44th president of these United States. And it is a very descriptive book. He's very candid and honest about things, particularly about his relationship with his wife. We talked about that in the first segment, that they weren't a Norman Rockwell couple like we all thought. Not that they did not love each other, of course, because I'm sure they do and they did during that time, but they were challenged because of his political pursuits and what he wanted to accomplish as an individual. And so he talked about it honestly, and I appreciated that, because again, as a spectator, someone on the outside looking in, watching their life play out in front of us, it appeared as if, they were the perfect couple. They were a team, and things kind of just jailed. But he talks about in his book how he had to constantly convince his spouse that he was moving in the right direction, and that this next political move would be the one that would be successful, and that if she just gave him her support, that they would be successful. So I also want to make a correction, because in the last segment I did say that she mentioned or said to him after his presidential run that you did make it work. You accomplished it. She said, "I can't believe you pulled this whole thing off, the campaign, the book." And he said, magic beans. Actually, that was his U.S. Senate run back in 2004. And he had told her prior to running that, he was going to, this opportunity became available and he needed her support. And so, she reluctantly went along with it. But when he did win and was ultimately victorious, her response to him was, "I can't believe you pulled the whole thing off, the campaign, the book." And he said, magic beans. And the book was Tales or Dreams of My Father. It was a reprint of that once he won the U.S. Senate for the state of Illinois. And so just want to make that correction there. But again, they had some very contentious discussions and debates regarding his political aspirations. And we talked in the last segment about how, take it for what it's worth, that when you're dating someone and they, you're expressing to them your visions and your dreams, and they're impressed with your idealism and what you want to accomplish and all of that, and how that is what drew them to you. But then once you're married and you want to start to pursue those dreams, sometimes it becomes a problem. And I just thought it was interesting that he mentioned that in there, particularly when he was talking about running for president, and she told him not even to expect her vote. And that just really was shockingly surprising, because we know that she campaigned for him, and of course she did vote for him, but she also was a beneficiary of his success as well, because she would not have been first lady of anything had he not been elected the first black president of the United States. So there you have it, guys. I mean, she did ultimately come along with him because she understood that this was a team effort, and that she had to be vested in this in order for it to work. But again, it's so interesting because we're looking as spectators. We're on the outside looking in, but his book invites us inside, not just his life, but their marriage, their relationship, his family, his politics, and all of that. And that is the the riveting part about reading this book. And again, I highly recommend it. But in this segment on tonight, we're going to be talking about his political campaigns, because he did have several of them before he decided to run for president of the United States. And then we're also going to talk about his successful run, successful race as the first black presidential, not candidate, but winner of the presidency. So we're going to talk about that and the significance of that in this segment as well. So in the book, part 2, Yes, We Can, this is where it chronicles President Obama's run for the presidency. But before we even go there, of course, we have to start back where he initially decided to get into politics, and that was as a community organizer. And it's interesting that he decided to start there as a community organizer because it is from the grassroots level that he felt he could really connect with people, that he could really connect with his community, with the people of his neighborhood, the people in the south side of Chicago at the time. And, he had a gift for oratory. He had a charisma that was that people gravitated towards, I think, which was also a big part of his success as a political candidate at whatever race he decided to run. But as a community organizer, the book talks about, him meeting with, the community, having town halls and trying to really get down to the nuts and bolts of what was needed in the neighborhoods and in their communities. And it was at that point that he decided that he could do more if he got into politics, because he saw that it was going to be through legislation and through legislative policy that he was really going to be able to effectuate change in the communities that he was trying to help. And so he decided to go back to school after graduating from Columbia University with his bachelor's degree. He went on to Harvard Law School as a law student there and became the first black president of the Harvard Law Review. And this was, again, one of the first of his many accomplishments, not just as a student, but as an individual that was, dedicated to pursuing excellence in everything that he set his mind to do. And it was in 1996 where Obama was elected to the Illinois Senate, succeeding Democratic State Senator Alice Palmer from Illinois' 13th District, which at the time spanned Chicago's South Side neighborhoods from Hyde Park, Kenwood South to the South Shore and west to Chicago Lawn. And here again, Obama expanded on his approach to helping people by moving from just being a community organizer to now being an elected official that could effectuate policy in those same neighborhoods and communities that he was trying to help as a community organizer. Up until this point, he was a virtual unknown. People really did not know who he was on a national scale. He was a local politician, a state senator in Illinois, again, working to help the people in his particular district. However, there was a point where the nation became very familiar with this young rising star. In 2004, coming off the heels of a successful U.S. Senate run for the state of Illinois, he had the distinguished honor and opportunity to be the keynote speaker at the Democratic National Convention. Here's a clip of that. Take a listen.
Now let me be clear. We have real enemies in the world. These enemies must be found, they must be pursued, and they must be defeated. John Kerry knows this. And just as Lieutenant Kerry did not hesitate to risk his life to protect the men who served with him in Vietnam, President Kerry will not hesitate one moment to use our military might to keep America safe and secure. John Kerry believes in America, and he knows that it's not enough for just some of us to prosper. For alongside our famous individualism, there's another ingredient in the American saga, a belief that we're all connected as one people. If there's a child on the south side of Chicago who can't read, that matters to me even if it's not my child. If there's a senior citizen somewhere who can't pay for their prescription drugs and having to choose between medicine and the rent, that makes my life poorer even if it's not my grandparent. If there's an Arab American family being rounded up without benefit of an attorney or due process, that threatens my civil liberties. It is that fundamental belief. It is that fundamental belief, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, that makes this country work. It's what allows us to pursue our individual dreams and yet still come together as one American family. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Now, even as we speak, there are those who are preparing to divide us. The spin masters, the negative ad peddlers, who embrace the politics of anything goes. Well, I say to them tonight, there is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America. The pundits like to slice and dice our country into red states and blue states, red states for Republicans, blue states for Democrats. But I've got news for them, too. We worship an awesome God in the blue states, and we don't like federal agents poking around in our libraries in the red states. We coach Little League in the blue states, and yes, we've got some gay friends in the red states. There are patriots who opposed the war in Iraq, and there are patriots who supported the war in Iraq. We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the Stars and Stripes, all of us defending the United States of America.
And it was after this speech, he was on an upward trajectory in this political sphere that would propel him to the presidency of the United States. I mean, he didn't look back after that. As a young freshman senator in the United States Senate, he had already began fielding phone calls from top Democrats who were urging him and questioning when he was going to run for president of the United States. And again, that's I'm sure a huge compliment coming from someone who started as a community organizer who had no designs on running for the highest office in the land, really just wanting to do something in their community, really just wanting to find ways to help those in need. And here he was now given an opportunity, a platform that, could propel him to the highest office in the land. Now, there had been several other black African Americans who had tried to run for president and were not successful. Again, we talked about them. Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and Reverend Al Sharpton, just to name a few. But they were not successful in their run, and in part because they ran as the quote-unquote black candidate. And it's dangerous to run as a quote-unquote black candidate because you automatically restrict yourself to a certain demographic or to a ethnicity that confines you and possibly even restricts you in the national political arena. And it's hard for white America to relate to you because you are coming off as the black candidate, or you're being billed as the black candidate, and that is not what Barack Obama wanted to be, and he understood that was not going to be the recipe for success for him. He decided to run as a candidate for all America, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. He realized that he was not going to just be the president of Black America, but he was going to be the president of the United States of America. And if that was going to be the case, then he had to run a candidacy that encompassed all of this country. Every segment, every demographic. It had to be a campaign that encompassed all people. And, that came with its challenges. It came with its setbacks because, as a black candidate, your black constituency wants you to put their needs, their concerns at the top of your list of priorities, or the issues that should be addressed first. And that was not what he understood to be a winning recipe, and so he did not do that. And some were turned off by that, but he continued on with the plan and the strategy that he had in place. One good thing I would say about him was he definitely had a team of successful people surrounding him and giving him good advice and wisdom on how to run a successful presidential campaign. The same team that he used to run for the United States Senate successfully, the same team that he used to run for the state Senate for Illinois. It was a team that was with him from day one. And he continued to build on that team as he went throughout his political career. That I'm running for president, or he was not just in it symbolically to have the plight of Black America elevated to the national political arena, but he was running because he believed, along with his team, that he could actually win the White House. And that is a very significant point to make because even though no one had done it before him, he still had it in his mind that it was possible. And that is one of the considerations that comes along with being first, or being the first one to ever do something. Regardless of who went before you and failed, the opportunity is still there for you to succeed. I wish I had a witness in here. I hope I'm not just talking to myself. Regardless of who came before you and failed, the opportunity for you to succeed is still there. And that is the mindset that he had as a candidate for president of the United States. Not a black candidate, but as a candidate for the presidency of the United States. So very important for you to understand that, because blacks had become complacent and apathetic when it came to a black man or a black candidate running for the highest office in the land. But he did not subscribe to that apathy. He did not subscribe to that complacency. He believed that he could win the presidency, in large part because of how successful his U.S. Senate run was as an African American coming from the state of Illinois. He could see how the events that he had, the rallies that he had as a state senator, a U.S. senator, the rallies were packed out stadiums and hundreds of tens of thousands of people there at rallies. He was his status as a politician and public figure was continuing to rise, and so what he wanted to do was ride the wave right on to the White House. And that was a strategy that was, in his mind, a winning strategy, and history tells us that it was a strategy that ultimately won him the presidency. But another part of the campaign that I wanted to address, especially given the fact that he was not running as the black candidate, although his race was something that, he could not, hide. His ethnicity was not something that he could just pushed to the background, even though he was trying his best to run a campaign not based solely on race, or not even based on race, but race became a factor. It really did. In fact, it was also the part in this book where he discussed his relationship he had with former pastor Dr. Jeremiah Wright, pastor of Trinity Methodist Church, who ultimately became a casualty of Obama's campaign, not just literally, but figuratively and politically. It was those challenges and perceptions that he faced during his candidacy that helped equip him for the job of the presidency. If you recall, it was during his presidential run that there was footage of his current pastor, or former pastor now, Dr. Jeremiah Wright, that came out. Dr. Jeremiah Wright is a scholar, intellectual, dynamic pastor in his own right, but this footage had him criticizing this country's roots in slavery, and this controversial footage came out coincidentally during Obama's presidential run, and some would even say it was done intentionally by the Clinton campaign to get Obama to address the pink elephant in the room, which was race. And it forced Obama to address race during his presidential campaign and put together a speech that he called the most inconsequential speech of his presidential campaign, and he entitled it "Race in America." Here's a clip of it. Take a listen.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, 221 years ago, in a hall that still stands across the street, a group of men gathered and with these simple words launched America's improbable experiment in democracy. Farmers and scholars, statesmen and patriots who had traveled across the ocean to escape tyranny and persecution finally made real their Declaration of Independence at a Philadelphia convention that lasted through the spring of 1787. The document they produced was eventually signed, but ultimately unfinished. It was stained by this nation's original sin of slavery, a question that divided the colonies and brought the convention to a stalemate until the founders chose to allow the slave trade to continue for at least 20 more years and to leave any final resolution to future generations. Of course, the answer to the slavery question was already embedded within our Constitution, a Constitution that had at its very core the ideal of equal citizenship under the law,
a Constitution that promised its people liberty and justice, and a union that could be and should be perfected over time. And yet words on a parchment would not be enough to deliver slaves from bondage or provide men and women of every color and creed their full rights and obligations as citizens of the United States. What would be needed were Americans in successive generations who were willing to do their part through protests and struggles on the streets and in the courts, through a civil war and civil disobedience, and always at great risk, to narrow that gap between the promise of our ideals and the reality of their time. This was one of the tasks we set forth at the beginning of this presidential campaign, to continue the long march of those who came before us, a march for a more just, more equal, more free, more caring, and more prosperous America. I chose to run for president at this moment in history because I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges of our time unless we solve them together, unless we perfect our union by understanding that we may have different stories, but we hold common hopes, that we may not look the same and may not have come from the same place, but we all want to move in the same direction towards a better future for our children and our grandchildren.
So you can see, Obama was a very powerful orator. He was one that definitely was able to connect with his constituents, and he was able to put the themes of his campaign in very clear language that was attractive to his constituents. You remember the buttons with hope on it and change on it. He was successful in being able to really connect with those who were his supporters. And so this is just kind of like a little trip down memory lane. And again, I said this earlier, as you read A Promised Land, you're not only reading it and thinking about the life and legacy of President Obama as he shares with you some of his insights into his life and behind the scenes look at his life. You also are looking at it from your perspective as well, thinking about where you were, what you were doing when this happened and when that happened, the campaign accomplishments and how it directly or indirectly related to what you were doing at the time. And so that's again another reason why this book is such a great read, and I highly recommend it for you as well. Well, guys, I'm going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the impact and significance of being the first black president of the United States. Guys, you're tuned in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show, one of the hottest radio shows online. We'll be right back.
This is Michael Eric Dyson, and when I'm in Detroit, I listen to the Thinking Out Loud radio show, dropping that knowledge, giving that inspiration, giving us that enlightenment. Nobody does it like Brother Michael does it. Do your thing. Holla. Peace.
The Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.
Don't touch that dial. It's the Thinking Out Loud radio show. We'll be right back.
Thinking Out Loud swag is here. T-shirts, polos, hoodies, Letterman's jackets, and even face masks. All priced affordably and in a variety of colors and sizes. Just visit michaelnimmons.com to purchase your favorite Thinking Out Loud radio show swag. Get yours today and rep the show out loud. All-pro football player Derek Mason on Jay-Z in the NFL.
Jay-Z said, we're past kneeling. Because Jay-Z, you may be past kneeling, but the guys that are still kneeling, the guys that are still fighting for injustice, artists, they're not past million. Everybody's screaming that, oh, Jay-Z's at the table now. We should be happy that one of us is at the table. Just because you're at the table doesn't mean we all eating the same.
Poet and lyricist Ty Scott King on the culture of CHH.
My brain is overloaded. Like, I think a lot of people are like, man, there's not really many people doing this. There are thousands of very amazing artists that are doing Christian hip-hop. I think about Aaron Cole. I think about Stephen Malcolm, who, if there's someone that could hear an interview and be like, I want to work with him, like, he would be a person that I would love to work with. He's just a phenomenal rapper, just really creative. Wande, she's another one that, another artist that I had on my radio show. She is, Wande is maybe in her early 20s. She's doing a lot of stuff now with Reach Records and just really different, really going against the grain.
Griff from Get Up Mornings with Erica Campbell on what he does besides comedy.
Yeah. Comedy is always my first job. Radio is my side job, but I just got a nonprofit. I've been working with other people's nonprofits for the last 30 years, and I just created my own nonprofit, 501c3, called the Process Success Foundation, to deal with leadership. And basically, I'm just going to take a bunch of young men on field trips all around the world. And I can show you how during the NHL season that all basketball stadiums have ice on them with the hardwood over the ice. Once I show you those processes, then I can teach you the process of forgiveness. I can teach you the process of love. I can teach you the process of being grateful.
We bring you the best minds who deliver their best thoughts only on the Thinking Out Loud radio show.
Vision should be the next book you purchase. Written by radio host and minister Michael Nimmons. Vision is an insightful, thought-provoking book that is also a helpful tool in getting you to see your life through God's eyes. Vision. Endorsed by best-selling authors Dr. Eddie Connor and Kim Brooks and mega pastor Bishop Charles H. Ellis III. Vision is a life-changing book that you need in your personal library. Get your copy today. Available everywhere books are sold online or at michaelnimmons.com. Get your copy today. Vision. Stay tuned for more motivation, more inspiration, and more empowerment on the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Keep it locked.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer. It's the answer told by lines that stretched around schools and churches in numbers this nation has never seen, by people who waited 3 hours and 4 hours, many for the first time in their lives, because they believed that this time must be different, that their voices could be that difference. It's the answer spoken by young and old, rich and poor, Democrat and Republican, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, gay, straight, disabled and not disabled, Americans who sent a message to the world that we have never been just a collection of individuals or a collection of red states and blue states. We are and always will be the United States of America.
We are back on the A Promised Land Presidential Memoir Book Series edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show. I'm your host, Michael Nimmons, and guys, I'm just excited about this opportunity to discuss former President Obama's latest or newest book entitled A Promised Land. Just a loose discussion of his book and his legacy as well. We've been having a great discussion about this book and how he talks about not just his childhood and adolescence, but he talks about his political career all the way up until the first 4 years of his presidency. This is volume 1 in what he's calling his presidential memoirs, A Promised Land. Highly recommend that you check this book out. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it, and I've just been enjoying it, and I've wanted to share my thoughts on the book as well as the legacy of President Obama in these 2 shows that we're doing about A Promised Land. I think he is one of the most transformative presidents in this country's history, and I think this discussion is very appropriate given the fact that we are in the transition of an outgoing administration, one of the worst, if not the worst administrations in presidential history, in U.S. history, going into yet another administration in just a few days. And so given the fact that that is happening, I think it was so appropriate for us to talk about the legacy of this transformative president in the person of Barack Obama. Again, this is a powerful book, and I highly recommend it. In this segment, we're going to be talking about the impact, the significance of being the first black president of the United States of America. And, there was just so much that came out of the 8 years that he was president, and watching him, a very charismatic, intelligent, some would even say suave leader. He had swag. Many people said that he knew the position that he held, and he carried himself in a way that required respect, demanded respect, and reminds me of a line in Rudyard Kipling's poem If you could walk with kings and yet keep the common touch. And that is I believe what President Obama did, and even talked about in his book. He was able to walk with kings as president of the United States, but yet he never lost the common touch. There's pictures of him walking through the White House, shaking the hands of the custodians and the janitors and the cooks and the individuals who were considered to be his subservients or servants. Those who are subservient to him are those of a lower class, those that are not necessarily on his level, but he still was able to appreciate them and make them feel like they were significant and that they were important. I thought that was one of the great qualities of his that I admired. And so him being the first black president, that came with a lot of responsibility, came with a lot of challenges, I'm sure. There are individuals, people, journalists and authors that wrote about that. One in particular is Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, who is someone that I admire, read a lot of his books. In fact, he wrote about Obama's presidency in his book, The Black Presidency, and in his book he was I thought a bit critical of Obama because he thought, like some black people or many black people I should say, that Obama should have put the black agenda a bit higher on his list of things to do while he was president. And I guess I figured and I thought that individuals like himself would understand the challenges that came along with not just being a black president, but being the first black president, and how hard and complicated and arduous a task that would be, particularly because it seemed like he was always operating within a restricted framework as president of the United States. White America seemed to keep him, or try to keep him, within a certain parameters that he only had to work within, or operate from within. He would tell you that, there were times where it felt like he was walking a tightrope as president, in particular because he was the black president. That was something, again, that regardless of whether he addressed it or not, he was the black president. He was a black president. By virtue of the color of his skin, that was something that he could not get away from. It was undeniable. However, even though he would not formally address that all the time, or even as much as we might have liked, it was still a fact that he could not get around. And so in Dyson's book, The Black Presidency, he says that President Obama could have been a bit more black, so to speak, when it came to addressing the plight of black America. Before President Obama became president, and even before he came onto the political scene, there were, I remember, comedians like Richard Pryor that would joke about, and Eddie Murphy that would joke about what it would be like if we had a black president. In fact, let me just play a clip of a skit that Richard Pryor did as the first black president. Take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 40th President of the United States.
Mr. President, Tom Matthews, UPI. Mr. President, earlier this year you said that you would travel anywhere in the world to further the cause of peace. Considering the worsening situation in the Mideast, are you planning a trip there in the near future?
We have no definite plans as of yet to go to the Mideast, but we do plan maybe perhaps in a couple of years if the settlement and the agreements have not been reached by that time.
Thank you.
Ernest Richards, AP.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask you a question which I'm sure the American people would like to know. Do you feel that within the fiscal year the unemployment rate will drop below the 5% level?
Well, as you know, the 5% level pertains mostly to, if I may say, white America. In the black America, the minority situations is up to as high as 45%. And we plan to, with all our efforts, try to lower that rate to about 20% in the black areas, and of course it will be lower in the white areas, of course. We're trying to do this and merge a United States.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Arthur Williams, Chicago Sun-Herald. You've just okayed a $250 million increase in our space program. What I'd like to know is the main reason you did this so we can finally recruit black people for the space program?
I feel it's time that black people went to space. White people have been going to space for years and spacing out on us, as you might say. And I feel with the projects that we have in mind, we're going to send explorer ships through other galaxies, and no longer will they have the same type of music, Beethoven, Brahms, and Tchaikovsky. From now on, we have little Miles Davis and Charlie Parker. We're going to have some different kind of things in there. That's right. Yes, ma'am.
Roberta Davies, Jet Magazine. Mr. President, on your list of candidates for director of the FBI,
Are you including the name of Huey Newton?
Yes, I figure that Huey Newton is best qualified. He knows the ins and outs of the FBI, if anybody knows the ins and outs, and he would be an excellent director.
Yo, Blood. Yeah, Brother Bell from Ebony Magazine. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
All right. What you looking at, Snow White? Brother, about blacks in the labor force. I want to know what you're going to do about having more black brothers as quarterbacks in the National Football Hunter League. Okay. Right on.
I plan not only to have lots of black quarterbacks, but we're going to have black coaches and black owners of teams. As long as it's going to be football, going to be some black in it somewhere.
Right on.
Doing something bad.
All right.
Because I'm tired of this mess that's been going down.
Right.
You know what I mean? Ever since the Rams got rid of James Harris, I've been my job in up top. You know what I'm talking about? So we're going to get down on the case now. Yes, what is it? Miss.
So there you have it. You know, he, as you can see, the press conference when it first started out, you know, he was very, you know, what you would call presidential. And as the white journalists were asking him questions, the white reporters asking him questions, he was answering them, you know, speaking the in the white dialect, so to speak. But then when you know, his black the black journalists or the black reporters were asking him questions, then that's when he became a little bit more blacker or black. That's when he became the black president, so to speak. And that is a part of the conversation that author Michael Eric Dyson wanted to have in his book, The Black President, because you know, even though the race was the pink elephant in the room, and the color of his skin was something that was undeniable, regardless of whether he wanted to address it or not. It was still something that he felt, Dr. Dyson felt, was not addressed enough, even though President Obama understood that as president, that he could not make the agenda of Black America his first priority, because white America would not allow him to, or would not give him that ability to. You know, the ironic part about that office is, it seemed, that white presidents were able to do more for the black community, and the white America gave them space and the platform to do for Black America more than a black president would be able to do. And the only one that would really be able to understand that unequivocally is the first person to ever do it, and that would be President Barack Obama, because his perspective of this is not from the cheap seats like you and I, but his perspective is standing right at the podium with the presidential seal in front of it. He is the man himself, and he knows firsthand the limitations that he has, even as the leader of the free world. Although I thought that he would probably be his blackest when he was in his second term in office, because at that point, you know, he would not be a flash in the pan, so to speak. His presidency, you know, he would have 4 years under his belt. At that point, he would be a president that has a footing in the office. And so this would be, again, he wouldn't have to run another campaign. This would be his opportunity to be the blackest he could be as president of the United States. And even then, some would say that he was not. He did not live up to those expectations, but he was blacker than he was in the first 4 years of his presidency. But there were moments throughout his presidency throughout those 8 years where, he addressed the black community, where there were issues that, related to us that he had to address, that he could not sidestep, that he could not overlook. For example, the death of Trayvon Martin, or the death of the black parishioners at the church in, I believe it was North Carolina, that the white domestic terrorists came in and shot those 9 parishioners during a Bible class. And if you remember, President Obama gave the eulogy at that black pastor's funeral, which happened to be a friend of his. And he went into the song Amazing Grace. And so there were times where he was quote unquote the black president. And it was those moments that we gravitated towards. But in Michael Eric Dyson's book, one of President Obama's ardent critics, he talks about how black America really did not want him or anyone like him to criticize President Obama because of who he was, that he was someone that was off limits in some respects, because that even though we know he could, some of the things that he couldn't do as president, there was still, he was his presidency, as far as the critics were concerned, or as far as black America was concerned, was off limits. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to play a clip from a recent interview that Michael Eric Dyson did, talking about his latest book, A Long Time Coming, where he talks about this very thing. Take a listen.
You can't be mad at white folk and others who support Trump to no end, and you doing the same thing with Obama, even though you believe your guy is better. That's the nature of it, right? And black people, no matter what, you have to be very careful about criticizing Obama. And I took heat for that. I got a lot of pushback. A lot of prominent people who were black didn't want to associate with me, wouldn't let me on their programs and stuff like that. I still, I'm from Detroit, so I'm a hustler, baby. When the members of the system ain't no telling. But anyway, so the thing is, I'm going to make it. But the point is, there was pushback. There was assault. There was nastiness, right? I don't think I'm speaking out of school right now. Valerie Jarrett got at me one night at the Congressional Black Caucus, and we had a set 2 right there. Now, I try to be respectful of black women, but she went off on me in public. And later on, I emailed her. I said, Valerie, that's not characteristic of what you're doing. And she said, I'm so sorry. I apologize, but you could have gave me a warning. You were going to be critical of the president, blah, blah, blah. I took heat. Now, a lot of black people upset, but this is what I love about black people. Now that he's out of office and it can't hurt him, now that what I think about him won't cause him anything or cause these white supremacists to potentially kill him, I can be a little bit more honest. And that's understandable. I don't hold that to black people to account like, oh, you hypocrites. No, I understand. Now that he's out of office, you ready to go, nah, dog, that ain't really what it is. Some people still are forever, though. You say anything about Obama, they ready
to some degree, you can agree, to some degree, you can agree with him that, I'm not going to say that President Obama is beyond reproach, that everything this man did was perfect and that it was positive. There was definitely some things that I was, not too fond of. You know, he was not the perfect president, but I think when you compare him to his predecessors, he still stands above them because he was the first black president of the United States. Some of the things that, again, stand out to me is that he was a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize just months after becoming the president of the United States. Some of the things he talks about in his book, of course, are some of the his legislative accomplishments, like the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, the bailout of the auto industry, the bailout of the housing market. You know, there were some things, the capturing and killing Osama bin Laden. Those were some of the hallmarks of his presidency. There's definitely more that we could discuss on tonight regarding President Obama's newest book, A Promised Land. We plan to do that on the next episode, so be sure to tune in for that. We'll save that for next week's discussion. But guys, please go out and get yourself a copy. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Well, we're going to take our last break of the night. When we come back, we're going to give you our thought of the week. It's entitled A Fresh Start. You don't want to go anywhere. You're tuned in to one of the hottest radio shows online. It's the Thinking Out Loud radio show. We'll be right back.
You're tuned in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl Telly Hampton coming to you straight from Detroit, Michigan. Right now, I am tuned in with your great host, Michael Nimmons. Make sure you stay locked to the Thinking Out Loud radio show.
Tune in to the Thinking Out Loud radio show every Tuesday at 8 p.m. with radio host Michael Nimmons. Available everywhere you listen to your podcast. And now available for download on the Detroit Praise Network app.
Thinking Out Loud swag is here. T-shirts, polos, hoodies, Letterman's jackets, and even face masks. All priced affordably and in a variety of colors and sizes. Just visit michaelnimmons.com to purchase your favorite Thinking Out Loud radio show swag. Get yours today and rep the show out loud.
Who told you that you were naked? Who told you that you were insufficient? Who told you that you were a loser? Who told you that you were a failure? Who told you that you were deficient? Who told you that you were nothing? Who told you that you were worthless? Who told you that you had no value? Who told you that you to believe?
Who Told You That You Were Naked is a dynamic, empowering, and inspiring book about identity that is a definite must-have. Pastor Nimmons talks about an identity crisis that dates as far back as the Garden of Eden. You don't want to miss these powerful insights into not just the problem of this identity crisis, but the discovery of the spiritual solution. Get your copy now, available on Amazon for just $14.95 or by visiting michaelnimmons.com.
Like a victim when you are already victorious.
Hey, what's cracking, Planet Earth? It's your boy Griff, comedian, author, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, philanthropist, but a Jesus Christ lover. You understand me? And you're listening to Thinking Out Loud Radio with my homeboy Michael Nimmons. Check him out right here. Go ahead, Mike. Give him that good.
The Thinking Out Loud radio show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.
You're listening to the Thinking Out Loud radio show with Pastor Michael Nimmons. Don't you dare touch that dial.
It's time for the Thinking Out Loud radio show, thought of the week.
One of my favorite scriptures is found in Isaiah, the 43rd chapter, verse number 19, where God speaks through the prophet and shares these words. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Such powerful words coming from a God that can do all things. 2020 was probably the worst year that many of us have experienced in our lifetime. Most of the year we spent in our homes, socially distancing ourselves from one another to prevent the spread of the deadly coronavirus. And even amidst our best efforts, our nation still ranked the highest in the amount of active cases of COVID-19 and more than 13 million and almost 400,000 deaths. An inept administration in the White House has compounded this already growing problem. And what's worse is how politicized this deadly virus has become for millions of Americans that are out of work, on the brink of losing their homes because of the lack of empathy from one side of the political aisle for those who are suffering. To add insult to injury, we have a president who continues to stoke fear, falsehoods, and division in the minds of the American people about a free and fair election that did not go his way. An American president that went as far as inciting a riot or a coup against his own government to overturn an election that he lost by an overwhelming margin. What a sad and disturbing display that took place at our nation's capital just a few days ago. Watching as hundreds and thousands of white supremacists and domestic terrorists converged on our nation's capital, also known as the seat of our democracy, to try to overturn an election. And now the powers that be are demanding that someone be held accountable for what took place just a few days ago. Impeachment talks are being had. 25th Amendment threats are being made, although in just a few more days, a new president and a new administration will be inaugurated and become the new leaders of this nation. Yes, this has been a disastrous year. This has been a treacherous year. For some, this has even been a tragic year. And for others, it's been a terrible year. But what I love about the prophetic words from the prophet Isaiah that I believe God is saying to all of us is that this year, 2021, God is getting ready to do a new thing. If you were blessed to cross over from 2020 to 2021, you're walking into a year of new blessings, new grace, and new opportunities. The gift of a new year that God gives to each of us is the gift of a fresh start. A new start that allows us to hit the reset button on our dreams and visions. It allows us the opportunity to regroup and to reposition ourselves for the blessings that He has in store for us. For most of us, leaving 2020 was the best thing that could ever happen, and starting afresh and starting anew is just what the doctor ordered. But the power of this scripture is found not just in God's declaration of doing a new thing, but the power of the scripture is found in the examples that are aligned with this profound pronouncement. I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. This speaks to God's ability to completely overturn the consequences of those disasters that may have befallen us in the previous year. Disasters, tragedies, and misfortunes that we have experienced have caused us to fall into a depressive stupor that prevents us from seeing a brighter tomorrow. But I hear God saying not to focus on where you are. Don't focus on your problems. Don't wallow in the valley of despair. Instead, remember the omnipotence, the omniscience, and the omnipresence of the God you serve. God's words are rooted in his divine ability to do absolutely anything that he wants to do. Don't let what happened last year affect your faith in what God is able to do for you this year. He's the same God for a different year, and he's ready to do a new thing for you. I know you guys enjoyed our thought of the week, a fresh start, and that is definitely one thing I'm looking forward to in this brand new year. And it's one of the many gifts that God gives us, those of us who are able to cross over from one year to the next, and that is a fresh start. And there's a scripture that I love that Paul writes, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth to those things which are before, I press toward the mark of the prize of the high calling that is in Christ Jesus. And that's one thing about 2020. We're saying bye to 2020 and hello 2021. I don't know about you, but I'm so glad to be in this brand new year. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed our discussion about President Barack Obama. We're going to get back into it next week. I'm looking forward to it. And be sure to remember, we're going live on Instagram next Tuesday, January the 19th. At 9:30 live on Instagram, the after show. We're calling it the Thinking Out Loud Radio After Show. January 19th, live on Instagram. Add us at TOL Radio Host MSN so you can be a part of all the fun. We're going to be talking about his book. We're going to be talking about his legacy. We're going to be talking about Joe Biden's inauguration coming up on Wednesday, January 20th. So, guys, we got a lot of things coming up, so make sure you don't miss the Thinking Out Loud Radio Show podcast at 8 p.m. and the after show at 9:30 live on Instagram. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's show. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the Thinking Out Loud Radio Show. Your support helps us to increase our exposure across the World Wide Web. Remember to check out our website, michaelnimmons.com. We've got a lot of great things to offer there. And follow us on social media on Twitter and Instagram at TOL Radio Host MSN. If you want to be a guest on the show, or you're an entrepreneur and want to partner with the Thinking Out Loud Radio Show, send us an email at contact@michaelnimmons.com. Guys, we would love to hear from you. We're looking to partner with entrepreneurs and businesses to do some great things in 2021. So do us a favor, send us an email at contact@michaelnimmons.com if you want to partner with us, or if you want to be a guest on the show. We would love to hear from you. Well, guys, we're getting ready to get out of here, and until next time, always remember, if you think it, you can believe it. If you can believe it, you can see it. If you can see it, you can be it. If you can be it, you can achieve it. The power is in you. The mind is the most powerful muscle in your body. Use what you got to get what you want. The power is in you. It's the Thinking Out Loud Radio Show. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to the Thinking Out Loud Radio Show. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. To get more info about the show and the ministry, visit michaelnimmons.com. Want to book radio host Michael Nimmons for your next special event? Send an email to contact@michaelnimmons.com. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 p.m. for the Thinking Out Loud Radio Show, giving voice to issues that matter to you.